But I wanted to get full back in here and start talking a little bit about X factors for the season here. And we could always go for the layup of health. I'm going to challenge Greg and Ethan saying, all right, maybe let's go beyond just X factor. Just we got to stay healthy because, as Doeren said, there is a lot of luck to that. You can't control a lot of it. It just kind of happens here. But Greg, do you have what is one X factor that you have for this season if this is truly going to be Doran's year and he can finally get over the hump of being tired of second place?
I think it has to be somewhere on the defensive side. After last year, that seems to be the question marks on this team going in. Coach Doeren talked about it a little bit with last year with Elliott's situation, and the team did the best they could to rally around. And you had 9 injuries on the defensive side. And look, excuses aside, injuries aside, someone on the defense is going to have to step up on this team. I think there's going to be enough offensive weapons, and there's enough there where you can make some things work. It's going to be someone on the defensive side, and I think I'm with Ethan. Like how is this pass rush going to look? You got to pressure the quarterback. That's something State's not been super successful over the last couple of years. Like, yeah, you'll have a couple guys with like 4 or 5 sacks, but as a team as a whole, has I think had some problems there. Turnovers last year weren't as good as a couple years back. But give me someone. I'm with Ethan on the linebacker side, but I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to go Sterling Dixon. I think he's a guy that there's some hopes for, that they're really high on. But I mean, take any 3 of those linebackers, because again, when State was most successful, and I know this is a different defensive scheme and all of that, but when we had Drake Thomas, Peyton Wilson, Isaiah Moore, this team was cooking. And so get me back to some really good linebacker play. And for that reason, I'm going to take Sterling Dixon as an X factor.
Yeah. Well, and for me, Greg, I'm actually going to go not necessarily player specific for an X factor. I'm going to go a little bit more schedule here, actually. And I'm going to say the X factor is we got to have for sure a winning record, if not even 4-1 on the road. I really am challenging us to take a next step here in terms of on the road here. I know, Ethan. I'm. Here's my
I
thing.
thought you were going to go a different
I
way.
mean,
I thought you were going to go a specific game.
I
What's
thought
that?
if State goes 4-1 on the road, we can just get our playoff tickets now.
well,
you're still going to win at home, but yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like 3-2, 4-1. Like let's get there on the road. Just more because, all right. So here's the thing: Game 1 on the road, Virginia, huge game to start right out the gate. You gotta ideally start off 1-0. But then you go to Vanderbilt, which is a very hot program, hot team now right now. Now in terms of how they'll look, how they'll play without Diego Pavia, completely understand that. But again, they're going to be feeling themselves by that point. That's only week 3.
Week 4, technically.
Week 4, technically. So they'll still
3.
be because it'll be week 0 for us first Virginia, so it's week 3.
Yeah, 3.
Anyway, but so again, they'll still be feeling themselves, so they're still going to be playing some good ball probably at that point at Nashville on SC Network, and then you have to go to Stanford, which a trip to California is never easy. And then go to Tallahassee, which who the heck knows what Florida State's going to be like. They could be riding high, feeling really good, or they could be extremely just down the gutter. But then you wrap up with a road trip to Carolina here. So, I mean, it's definitely a challenging road schedule. And I think there's a lot of games here you could argue that have a lot of, tie to it in terms of how the season goes and how it feels for State fans in terms of where we are, in terms of competing for AC title, or like you said, Ethan, competing for even potentially a playoff spot here when all is said and done here. But yeah, go ahead.
I could piggyback off of that. Yeah. So if you're going to go X factor like that, I'm going to say X factor either 4-1 or 5-0 going into Louisville. I think Louisville is the game where if you go 4-1 with that loss to Vandy, because now you're 1-0 in conference play. Because here's the thing. You're either going to have to go undefeated or 1 loss to really give yourself a realistic opportunity. And we'll talk about it in tweets of the week, because it could get funky if you have like 2 or 3 losses. If you have 3, you're definitely out. But if you can have no more than 2 losses, and then now you got to play combos of losses, and it gets very muddy. But if you can go into that Louisville game 4-1, 5-0, again, with that one loss being to Vandy, and you come out on the other side of that game with a win, I think then we can really start to talk how this team's going to look if they maintain that level, because you're going to find out really quick getting into this season. There's no dipping your toes in the water this year. You're going to UVA week 1 ACC matchup. Like there's going to be some statements made in that first week.
Agreed. Ethan, what's your X factor for the season? Or one of them?
CJ Bailey. I think it's really interesting the way that State decided to approach this roster by pretty much going all in on Bailey and saying, here, you're our guy. You're compensated very nicely. We talked about that last week, if NC State was the highest bidder or not. Regardless of whether they were or not, I think we agree he was paid very, very nicely. Like if you were to rank like top 25 highest paid players, quarterbacks in the country, like is he on that
10.
list? Probably. You think he's top 10?
I do. Like, again, if the number, what we hear is true, that's a big number. I mean, I get it. What do you think? You think he's top 10? If not, very close?
Close. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, you probably figure half of the SEC teams were probably at his number, maybe more, maybe 2 or 3 in the Big Ten, and then 1 in the ACC. Like, who else is paying quarterbacks that kind of money outside of the,
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been Sorsby, but he isn't eligible. So,
yeah, that changes things. But like, you lost a lot. You lost a lot with Smothers, Rogers and Anderson moving on. But you lost a lot.
And Peak protecting him.
Peak, and obviously Jolie going pro.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the belief that those guys made Bailey look better than Bailey made them look, if that makes sense.
It's fair.
And, I talked about it kind of some last year. Like, I'm not sure this is the approach I would take with roster construction, like going all in on a quarterback and then, nickel and diming the roster the rest of the way. I'm not sold that this is going to work. I'm not. And we've talked about some of the concerns with Bailey. Can he be more consistent? Can he get out of his own way? Can he stop things from snowballing?
Stepping into
can he
throws.
things like that. Be more aggressive throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
To me, those are all real questions. And if
they're fixable.
This roster, they're fixable. He's very toolsy. He's got a ton of upside. Like this, but this roster is built for CJ Bailey to carry. Carry is probably not the wrong word. There are 22 players on the field
up and
at a
lead.
time. But yeah, like he's got to take and again, based off what we've seen the last 2 years, it may happen, but I'm not 100% sure that that's going to happen. And so, if Bailey has 3 really bad games like he did last year, what's it going to look like? And again, those were against really good teams. Those really good teams aren't on the schedule this year. So hopefully that helps. But again, what if there's still 2 or 3 bad games against teams that aren't on that level? Like, to me, that's kind of where it's at, where it's like, all right, you're expecting Bailey to carry you here.
So Ethan, let me ask you this. From year 1 to year 2, he got better, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's taking you a minute.
It's taken me a minute. Like
he led the ACC in QBR last year. He led the ACC in QBR last year.
Yeah.
Layton, but are you fixated on stats, or are you fixated on stats plus wins?
No, I mean, I'm fixated on just the simple fact of, I just have a hard time. I would have a hard time saying a quarterback who basically got thrown into the fire 2 years ago is just as good as the QB last year that led the AC in QBR. That's all I'm saying. Just that right there. But sorry, go ahead, Ethan.
So my thing with that would be, you're right. He got thrown into it in the middle of the season, or not the middle, but the beginning, whatever, right? Grayson McCall had taken reps. Right. Grayson McCall had taken all those reps up to that point. Very, very impressed with what he did as a freshman under those circumstances. Got NC State to a bowl game. Those skill guys were all very, very young. Smothers was a freshman. Rogers was a freshman.
Didn't really play a whole lot.
Was a freshman. Yeah, right. And so I was really impressed. But again, statistically, like, the completion percentage went from 65% to 68%. He went from 201 yards per game to 238 yards per game. 8 yards per attempt to 7.8 yards per attempt. That went down. Interceptions went from 3.3% to 2.3%. So a little better. Touchdown percentage on, percentage of throws that were touchdowns, 5.6 to 6.3. Sports Reference has his rating. I don't know which rating they use. Their efficiency rating went from 144 to a 150. Like his running numbers were pretty much in line. I expected a bigger jump.
Yeah.
No big leaps. I expected a bigger leap because it was his offseason. He was the guy. And again, maybe it'll come, but like, again, if I'm looking at what happened from year 1 to year 2, am I sure that that leap is going to come from year 2 to year 3? Like that's kind of where my questions are.
So this is where then again, if you're taking that, the schedule was it was definitely harder. Like you played Duke, you played Georgia Tech, you played Miami, you played Notre Dame. Those are 4 quality teams from last year that you're not playing this year. Again, as it stands today on 20 July, right? Because again, things change. People jump out.
Greg, you're not in the military right now. July 20th.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Touche, sir. But there's always a team that sneaks up, right, during the season that you're like, oh, did not see that one coming. And so that team may end up on state schedule. But as of today, like with the schedule lightened a little, maybe that's what, again, that's not the greatest like rah speech.
But it would count, right?
Yeah, like, but it would count, correct?
It would count, right? Like we talked about it. I believe, was it 8 of those interceptions? We talked about this a few weeks ago. 8 of
against Duke,
9 interceptions came in 3 games.
Yeah.
Right. So if you sit here and say, all right, well, you're not playing teams like that, so we're going to go ahead and knock your interceptions from 9 down to 2. Hey, that improvement's there, right? We're not we're not going to be sitting there after the season saying, oh, well,
and then he's someone else's problem after that.
Somebody else's not even that, but like if you win the games, who cares?
Yeah.
If you get to 10 wins, if you get to the ACC title game. So, if that's the improvement, being the teams that you're playing are worse, hey, I'll take it. I'm not going to sit here and say, and that certainly could happen. And then you combine like, hey, what if he does take a leap and your schedule's easier? Then you've really got something. So
double bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So with that being said, Wolfpack Nation, so we locked in our X factors there. So make sure to hold us accountable as the season goes, especially in December once we get to the postseason too as well. Definitely remind us too as well of how these X factors turned out, and if they turned out like fine wine or like weak old eggs.
Moldy cheese. Yeah.
Moldy cheese, even that too as well.